Hey y'all. Sorry, I just wanted to turn on the voice recording so that I could have a transcript. It's me, Ashley. I am excited to be sharing space with you again. Thank you all for being here with me. And just as a little token of my appreciation, and to introduce you to the way that I channel, I wanted to do a message for 2024. So this is general guidance of just maybe some of the things that we can expect, as well as the best way to approach the year. So what I encourage you to do is, as you are setting your intentions, as you are setting your goals, as you are not, to really just kind of feel into this energy and see how it applies to you. Take what resonates, leave the rest. I'm just gonna jump right in because y'all, I have had a hell of a time trying to record this video. As you can see, we had a little bit of a gangster and sometimes you just gotta show up off, and it is what it is. As I mentioned, I have been trying to record this damn video. So my cards are out. Most of them are not flipped over, but the overall energy, it is. I had two cards, and with the overall energy, this is kind of like maybe where our focus should be. What's the thing that will be coming up for us, and the ways that we can approach it. So the first card was loyalty, and I might read from the book. Loyalty is difficult to see, but here it looks like a couple that somebody wasn't loyal, and now he's trying to make amends. And so here, I don't get a quite literal energy of, this focus on our romantic relationships, or us focus on relationships and who is loyal to us and who is not, but really looking at our commitments, looking at the ways in which we have been loyal or haven't to the things that we say we want. And so really what I think this is an examination of, especially at this time, commitments that we've made, and do they still stand, right? Why is it that for the ones that you weren't able to keep, or we weren't able to keep for ourselves, why is that, right? Is it's no longer working? It's not what you truly desire? You got that shit and it ain't what you thought, right? Whatever it is, this is an opportunity at this point, at a point of conflict, at a point when something happens where you weren't able to keep that commitment. This is a chance to re-examine, to pause and to really figure out, like, does this commitment really work for me moving forward? And is this what I want to be dedicated to? This can apply to all areas, but I really want to focus on the ones that we make to ourselves and how we make these commitments to ourselves, right? Excuse me. In a relationship in particular, with maybe something, there a conflict happened, and one of the people is trying to apologize and like, oh, I'll make it up to you. Oh, I'll do better. Oh, I'm going to change. Like all of this, right? Typically, when the conflict has happened, or not typically, what can happen when a conflict has happened is this rush to fix it, this rush to make it right, right? And so before even stopping to figure out, why was I not even able to keep that commitment? Why was there a betrayal of trust? Why did I end up doing something to hurt this person, like the absence of that, sitting with that, because we want to rush to fix. You want to rush to make it right, to get back to like to the good parts, right? Or just to stop yourself from feeling shitty, right? Guilt, shame. Oh, I did this thing wrong. Now I have to show up like this. This is actually, it might not feel good. Well, this is actually a really good opportunity to stop and say, is this something that I can continue to be loyal to? Is this a commitment that I want to continue to invest in, continue to be in? Is this a commitment I can keep? Like, I might have the desire, but for whatever XYZ, I'm not able. And so I think this is really an opportunity to get real about what you will be loyal to moving forward. And so again, going back to kind of conflict, or thinking about it in the context of like conflict between two people, and bringing it back to a focus on self. When we fuck up, there can be this tendency to beat yourself up. This tendency to like sit in shame, or like, oh, like, you have to feel bad. And I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that it will feel good necessarily, but like this approach has to be different, especially with this other card being empowered. Again, we have two people here. Similar, I'll take a picture of the cards, but they're sitting on clouds, and the two of them are holding a lightning bolt. And for me, that's really this typical, or this old approach, right? Like the explosiveness, the fire, the impulse, reactiveness, like acting immediately. Even though there's a lot of like passion here, even though there's a lot of power here, there's so much softness and ease. And so this is taking an approach. And I think I got a little bit ahead of myself, right? Going back to this card, these two figures, they're in conflict. Right now, it's not working together. And so here, especially when we are talking about self, you don't have to be in conflict with yourself to make these commitments, to recommit to something, to drop a commitment. Maybe you fucked up, whatever it is asking you to take a different type of approach, more of a working like with yourself. Specifically, I am feeling, I am thinking about back to the conflict of, let's say somebody fucks up. They did you wrong, and holding that against them, making them prove it, punishing them essentially because they did wrong. That doesn't have to happen with yourself. You have to give yourself the grace. And what that means is, yes, you're holding yourself accountable. Yes, you're being honest. You're not pushing blame. You have to take a very honest look at, yourself and the way that you were showing up. But you don't have to do that in conflict against yourself. You have to hold yourself with compassion, right? You have to give yourself the grace in order to really make the commitments that you can be loyal to moving forward. Because if you do it out of this place of shame, if you're doing it out of this place of guilt, if you are punishing yourself, you can't make a true commitment, right? Then it just becomes about getting rid of all of those feelings instead of like, oh, actually, what do I need to be dedicating myself to? Anything else? And this reminds me, next year in tarot is the strength card. Let me see. So I'm bringing that up because the imagery here is putting me in that mind. In it is a lion and a maiden, right? And so when we think about a lion, it is that theme of like loyalty. It is like the king of the jungle, vicious, powerful, action. It might be out. Okay. Looks like it might have come up. Oh, here it is. Strength. So this is the tarot card that's supposed to represent next year. And so the way the person in control here is this maiden, is this person right here. And they're taming the lion with the soft touch. They're taming the lion, excuse me, with love, with nurturance, with compassion, with connection. And when we bring this energy for ourselves, or we use this kind of energy with ourselves, especially if this is in a way that we're used to showing up, that takes a lot of strength and a lot of vulnerability. And so with the word like loyalty, empower, it just made me think of this strength card, especially with the message coming through as a giving ourselves this softness and this care and this nurturance so that we can empower ourselves, so that we can take the steps, so that we can really just make the commitments that we need to for ourselves. And so again, looking at our own relationship, what commitments we're making for ourselves, but also externally to other person, place, or things, right? Like, does this commitment continue to serve me? How can I show up in dedication to this thing? Do I want to continue to? Is it time to let it go? So really starting to take a look at what will I be loyal to? So I have some cards pulled that came from 3 different decks. And so really just looking for more guidance into how we can embody this more, or just clear direction that we can take. And so the first card is our review or our reflection. Let me see what it is. Share tenderness. Like I said, I will send you all a picture. So these two folks, forehead to forehead. Give me a second. I'm just trying to listen and pause. This is actually, while the overall message just felt like, a space of really looking at what we have been loyal to and how we have been loyal, and if, that will continue moving forward. This does feel specifically about relationship to others or the external. Should I read? Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and flip over the other cards as well, because I think it will all go together. And so what should we be initiating? King of Pentacles, Stone Security, increase, Magician, decrease, the Hierophant. All right, give me a second. I'm gonna clarify. The Star. So as we're reflecting, because even with the stars, this energy of reciprocity. Typically, this is a card of healing, a card of you're moving in the right direction. But what really sticks out to me here is this body of water and the way that it's kind of pouring into, like, in both, they're pouring out of both, and then this is pouring into it. Is it the outflow? Is it the reciprocity? What is it? I'm gonna read, because there's this emphasis on relationships, but I am having a difficult time getting engaged on, like, what for. Share tenderness, tender hearts, gentleness, quiet moments, your loveliness has linked up with another, and you can share a deep tenderness. Even for those of us who see this as romantic yuck stuff, are in the right mood to give or receive tenderness when this card works itself into your life. Rosy cheeks and unspoken but known conversation. Power dynamics have left the room, and all that exists is simplicity of holding space and transcendent gentleness. Okay, thank you. So I think it's just like getting a little bit more specific and get a little bit more clear on what makes you feel safe enough to show up in this way, to show up in your tenderness. Thank you. So this might be looking at relationships, but in general, I think it's more of an opportunity to dream, right? Like this might not be like, oh, let me look at like my romantic relationship, or oh, let me look at my relationship with this friend. But this is a reflection of like, when have I felt safe showing up in my tenderness? When has it felt like okay to shed the clothing, to shed the layers, and allow myself to be soft? Allow myself to be in this energy where I don't have to take on the approach of the lion. And so sometimes we might think of this as something that just happens instead of something that we create, or that we have a say in. But this is encouraging us to go back to where we have felt that tenderness, where we have felt that ease of being, of sharing, of pouring ourselves out, of being seen, naked, being vulnerable, and going back to commitments, starting to be intentional about pouring into the relationships, the places, the things that give us that space. Sorry, I just noticed that in the other card that I pulled, there's a star here at the bottom. And so this is our initiate and our create card, the King of Pentacles. This is a card of material abundance, dealing with, but who creates it? Who creates it and how? And so give me a second. Because the emphasis here is not about, wow, like the Pentacles is a suit of, our resource of material things. This is about creating our security. This is about creating in a way that allows us to be safe, but okay, thank you. And the how of it. So this is going back to that original message about the dedication. I don't think that I spoke to what that actually means. There's discipline. right? There's structure. There's persistence. And so in order, this is why it's so important to assess what you are committing to, because of what is required in order to create the security. Did I read? Nope. Okay. And this is long-term, right? Like the King of Pentacles is building a legacy. They're building a kingdom. So what do you want to be surrounded by at the end of it? We're starting with, or what we should increase, this is the energy of like amplifying, calling in more, really like bringing in this energy, is the Magician, number one, initiating, right? There's a couple things here. Excuse me. Because what happens here, it feels foundational, right? But you don't want to get too far in the foundation. So you feel like you have to keep moving. Spend some time, because this is large picture in mind, but focusing on the small things that are leading up to it, right? So give me a scenario, give me an example. Spice it up for me. Give me something specific. Let's say you're starting a business. The goals that you have are specifically based off of like the type of income, the amount of money that you want to make, right? That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. And so like, as you are tracking, as you were setting goals, it's all based off of income. All right, I hit that, it's time to like double it. All right, I hit that, it's time to double it. All right, I hit that, it's time to double it, right? Nothing wrong with the goal, but during that process, have you been tracking how much time it takes? How much energy you have to dole out? How much sleep you get? Are you still able to travel? Are you still able to spend time with friends? Like, what are the things that you value, right? Because there's so much of a focus on, this is the income that I'm trying to get to, or this is what the end goal is, without looking at, okay, well, what is required as I'm building this up? And so not getting too far ahead and making sure that within that you can make the commitments that are aligned with what you really want and what you really desire, and not just this one big overall arching goal. And so like with the Magician, it is a reminder to come back to the beginning. Come back to what do you actually want to create, and what do you actually want to build? But give yourself permission to play around with it and see, how does it feel to do this? What would it be like to do this? Do I want to incorporate that without making the commitment? So if we are talking about within romantic relationships, this is dating, right? Oh, I like how I feel in this situation. Oh, I like when I do these things. Oh, this feels better when I do it with this kind of person. I actually rather do this solo, right? So like this freedom, like this new energy is a freedom of is of play without having to make a serious commitment. And from that, especially with the energy that we want to like decrease or minimize, the Hierophant, without expectation, without the commitment, playing around, figuring it out, and especially without a focus on what it should be or what you think it should be. This is a very intimate energy of figuring out what you want and shedding all of these ideas of how that should look. So that what you build and what you create and what's around you is some shit you actually want to be in. Anything else? Should I read? Okay, read Empower. Empower, to read, to find opportunities to encourage or enable others to reach their aspirations, to encourage self-empowerment and consider when others have empowered oneself. Two beings exchange a lightning bolt, a symbol of immense natural celestial power. There will undoubtedly be times when you don't feel centered in your magic and power, but those times will be few and far between when you're surrounded by an aligned support system. Your strength doesn't need to rely on anyone outside of yourself, but encouragement from like-hearted individuals has the ability to catapult your aspirations to new heights. Keep the energy exchange flowing fluidly by acknowledging and encouraging the power you see in others. And I'm adding in yourself. My power is amplified by the support of those who genuinely see me. Anything else? All right, so again, this is general guidance. Take what resonates, leave the rest. If you are interested in seeing how this applies for you specifically, feel free to book a session, either intuitive guidance or visioning, and we can look into the year ahead. All right, have a happy new year if I don't see you before then.